Does going to marriage counseling for a sexless relationship work? The quick answer is no. In fact, in this video, I'm going to go through a post that I found on Reddit where somebody's asking this very question. As I react to this post, you will start finding reasons why it's actually a bad idea. In fact, we're going to go and dive straight into it. And by the way, same scenario. I'm just going to summarize what he's written rather than me trying to read it for you guys. Because if I try and read it for you guys, it would be absolutely very difficult. I've got dyslexia, not very good at reading. So as you guys, I've put it up for you so you can read it as well. But really, to summarize, he's a guy who's 46. They've been married for 20 years. They've got a 15-year-old child, and most times the terms of had sex was twice per month, which is more than most people would normally get, especially within a sexless relationship. Some people go for years, but in this case, usually it has been once, so there was a decrease in sex. Now, I'll be interested to know the time when it decreased, what happened. Now, considering it's 46, it didn't tell us how old she is, but I'm guessing they're about the same age. So generally, when it comes to women, there's a time when they go through menopause. So I don't know if she's been through that. Now, to be honest with you, I don't know what age most women go through menopause, but there is a massive decline in testosterone within women. So they have some point where they produce that, and the sexual desire really suffers when it comes to desiring sex. So I don't know if that was one of the things that contributed to it. So again, when you put that into context, and then you think about going to a marriage counselor, the marriage counselor becomes quite redundant because now this is a hormonal issue rather than I don't know, emotional baggage, trauma problem type thing. It could be, but I'm just guessing. So it says it's been less. It's a huge point of contention now. The problem when I hear this contention, and I can see why he's now considering counseling, because all of a sudden they've sat down and tried to talk about the lack of sex, and therefore, because she doesn't understand what is going on, whether it's a hormonal issue, whether it's a sexual comfort issue. Now, sexual comfort, it means that it's a behavioral problem. So, and trying to come across it with a logical solutions. Whereas, what do I mean by that? It's like when it comes to sex, it's it's really influenced by the way you behave, and that's why attraction is is an important indicator, important step in seduction. So you have to get that person to like you, and the way you do it is through behavior. You have to be behaving a certain way. The way you are looking at yourself, you have to be content in yourself. You have to be happy within your own skin in order to do so. And when you demonstrate that, that person will most likely to be wanting to be around you, and the more they're around you, then you can actually transition into seduction, which is a lot different to when you sit somebody down and then you now having to logically convince them why sex is good for you, which is completely different. So in this case, they have tried this interaction where they're talking about it, and I'm just going to go full screen of yeah, so they're really trying to talk about it, like how do we figure this out, how do we get to this point where we can both agree that sex is important, and then we can do it, which is really not answering the sexual comfort problem and answering what is happening in terms of a lack of desire for sex. So it's a very important thing that most people miss out on. And when it comes to marriage counseling, when the counselor is sitting on the other side, there is a of interest for them to try and resolve your issue pretty quickly. So, and they do this by telling that, okay, we're going to figure out what's the problem. See that you guys are in contention in terms of not agreeing on something, and generally they become afraid of you guys. So in case of these 10 sessions now to come, they will indicate, okay, you're struggling to communicate, and therefore you need to communicate on such and such. They'll give you whatever to exercise, and instead of doing the task, you'll be doing percent task, and then the 90% you're trying to gather evidence on your partner to then get you the counselor on your side. And generally they need that to happen so they can charge you for a longer period of time. That's why I say of interest for them to get you a result pretty quickly. So just from as a note, marriage counseling doesn't work. Now, personal counseling, as in person, I've been counseling myself, it does work. And the reason why it worked is that my counselor was amazing. And the reason why I understood he was amazing because he was identifying that he identified correctly that I had like any human being, I was experiencing negative emotions, and those negative emotions, I never had the tools to deal with those negative emotions. And because I didn't have those tools to deal with them, generally what would happen is that I'll go into self-destructive behaviors that were personally self-destructive and self-destructive in terms of on the wider people that are around me that are affected by me. So my family essentially and my wife. So I would do self-destructive behaviors because of the lack of skills of dealing with any negative emotions. So my counselor got to identify those emotions, got to identify these destructive behaviors, instead of giving me tools on how to deal with it. Now, does that work within? So does that work within a marriage counseling perspective? I think it does if you are logically in trying to deal with an issue where it's a logical approach, because it was more of a logical situation that was happening with my situation. And I'm just trying to give you an idea of what would work, and it would work on a personal level. If somebody else was influencing, now it's how they see me based off of what the other person is saying, and depending on what they're going through. And there's so many things that are moving parts in order for that person to go deep and fix, especially when there's two of you guys. So does it work? It might work in the long run, and I think it suits them for you to be there for a long extended period of time, which is different when you're working with us. If you with reignited men, I am. It's a terrible situation if I cannot get your results pretty quickly, because it's bad for my business, it's bad for how we operate. So I have to get your a result as quick as possible. Now, just that aside. So going deeper into what this guy was saying, he goes on to say that the one he wants to go to marriage counseling. However, she doesn't think that's a problem. Now, this is another part about marriage counseling, is that when you are trying to go marriage counseling, she has to agree that there's a problem, and you're at a position where you cannot come to a solution. So therefore, somebody to mediate in coming up with a solution is beneficial for both of you. If she feels like you've grabbed her on the wrist and you're dragging her along to the counseling session, she will do whatever it takes to make you look like you're the involved, especially again the fact that she's got negative feelings around that. So again, you are now, whether the therapist is good or not, if she feels forced to be sitting in that chair, she's going to give false information that will distort the way that the counselor looks at the situation. And whatever she says, and when I say distorts the information, I'm not particularly saying that she's going to say bad things about you. She might just say bad things about herself, or even put out information out there that will give a false diagnosis on how they will deal with that the issue. So this is why, like for me, marriage counseling is it's a real horrible place to go to, especially after many months of arguing with marriage counselors online, and we've been part of Facebook groups, and they really get on my nerves. I'm really trying hard not to swear. So yeah, they get on my nerves in the sense that the arguments on why it works is really very low standards. So in terms of what changing actually a sexless relationship, they've got no real clue on what to do. Not a logical problem. It's a behavioral problem. So they try and use logical solutions for a behavioral problem, and therefore that's why it never works. Oh, getting a bit riled up. I'm just oosa. Hold it back. Hold it back. So as we go a little bit deeper into this, I'm just gonna let's finish this off and we'll wrap it up in the pretty bowl. So she doesn't think anything is wrong. I'm sure. Like, so here you can see that he's gone to a point where they start to talk about it. Now, in terms of talking about lack of sex in the relation or in the relationship, it's something that I disagree most people should be talking about, especially if you come to a place where it's been contentious. It being contentious has created a negative association with sex within a relationship. So it doesn't matter what counseling you go to, if it's already a negative association with sex, and then you're compounding it with going counseling, what that does is just make it 10 times worse. You're most likely never going to have sex if you go marriage counseling after having a lot of contention after sex. They've just compounded on something that the the road back is actually a reset. So we always start everybody with a reset. Don't talk about sex. Don't initiate sex. Just focus on yourself. Do something that is of scarcity. Join a club, something that forces you not to have to be around the way you can cause sex. In fact, by doing so, it gives her some breathing space. It gives her to opportunity to miss you. It gives you an opportunity to have better interactions, and then you can transition from better interactions to actually moving to having more, start building on a positive frame around sex. So that's the reason why I think it's because more people, they argue, fight, and then they think, okay, because we're arguing so much and it's so difficult, let's just go to a marriage counselor. Maybe that might work. But really, okay. You can see that I'm trying my best to be kind. I'm just going to keep it above the belt. So just wondering, I think at the end of the day, like I said, if you're pulling her by the wrist and taking her to this place, it's most likely not going to work. If you both agree that there is something, maybe from a trauma standpoint or emotional standpoint, that is trauma based, then counseling will come with some its benefits. And if you're going with that approach, I think there is some real value that when it comes to changing a sexless relationship, those guys have got no clue what they're talking about. And you're probably wondering, okay, what qualifies me to do so? I used to be a pickup artist, and I approached thousands and thousands and thousands of women. So it's not just one type of woman, it's thousands of different types of women from different types of different countries as well. I lived in London, and when I did so, it was all with the intention. I was young, so it was all with the intention of wanting to have sex. So got really successful at doing that for many years. And there's things that I started realizing, that a lot of it isn't logical, a lot of it isn't emotional, a lot of it is behavior. We just react to behaviors, and when I say we, human beings behave. So in a seductive response from a woman, she will respond based off of the behavior that I'm putting out there. So how I speak, how I carry myself, how I deal with external pressure, all those things are things that you communicate. Now, when I got into a marriage, I struggled because I decided I didn't need any of those tools. I just were married, so everything should be okay. And I ended up falling under the trap where we had some difficulty in our relationship. And the way back was now really picking up those tools, which I thought were only for single men, but I actually realized that it's a continuous thing. You have to continuously attract your partner. You have to continuously try and seduce your partner. It's not, it's equal to that. In order for me to stay healthy and healthy, you have to put the right inputs into your body. So you have to eat well, you have to sleep well, you have to exercise and train. It's the same thing within a relationship. You have to be doing certain inputs in order to keep it in a certain level. So, for example, I still have to do attraction stuff. I still have to then do seduction stuff, and then have to, there's certain things that I have to be doing in order to keep the fire going. And one of the other inputs is allowing then we allow negative stuff to come into our relationship. What I mean by that is that different opinion is valuable within our relationship, because when we do have that different opinion, it gives us the opportunity to actually deal with the things that will cause us to grow. So again, those are things you start considering when it comes to being in a sexless relationship and changing it in terms of that. Like I said, sex is a behavioral response. So it's within that realm rather than a logical thing, and which is most people that approach it with a logical solution for a behavioral problem, as we call it within our community. So again, you guys, if you want to join our community, we are launching a course called Unleashing Unlimited Sexual Power Within Your Relationship. And that's what it is. It's just going to be a free course that's going to take you through understanding the psychology behind what's going on within a sexless relationship. And then we'll give you tactics on how to actually start changing things so that you can be doing the right behaviors that she's going to find incredibly attractive. So you become that irresistible partner that she's been craving. So thank you very much, guys. I'll be putting a link in the description on how you can join that community, and we'll be seeing you guys soon. Take care.